The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
G'day world, this is the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, and you are listening to Keeping It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review nights 11 through 14 of G1 Climax 33 and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com. Frequently updated and features like dark mode, improved transitions and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Here, we're getting through it. Very soon the G1 Climax will be over, and another one bites the dust.
Yeah, pretty crazy to think that the tournament's almost over.
I'm glad. Don't get me wrong, it's been good, but I'm ready to have my life back.
Before we jump into the tournament, last Wednesday we were in attendance for AEW Dynamite episode 200 from the Yingling Center here in Tampa, Florida, formerly known as the Sun Dome. What you think of the show?
The show was good. I don't have any great thoughts to, I don't have any deep insights. It was a good show. I got my tickets comped, so that's cool.
Yeah, you're in a little VIP section. Too good to sit with the rest of us.
Nah, you guys had better seats than I did. But I don't know. It was a good show. I haven't really been watching AEW, you know what I mean? So it's happening. Cool. I went to the show. It was good. Better than a lot of the Dynamites that I've watched over the past 5 or 6 months, but I don't know.
I thought the show was great. The Moxley three-way with Penta and Trent, that was absolutely nuts matchup. Vikingo and Commander against Aussie Open, that was tight. Caveira, Sammy against Jericho and Konosuke Takeshita, that was a good matchup. So yeah, it was a pretty fun Dynamite. Elite versus Jarrett and his crew.
Yeah, no, the show was very fun. Every match was good to great. It was cool being there for women's title change with the confetti and everything. Got to see RVD, got to see the Hardy Boys. Some fetism going on there.
I know a lot of people aren't really excited about ECW in 2023 and RVD coming in, but I'm a huge RVD mark. He was my guy in the mid 2000s for WWE, and so I don't know. I marked out when he came out.
Yeah, Rob Van Dam is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. when he first came, my favorite period of his career is the early days of his run in WWE specifically. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, his best stuff is in ECW, but like seeing him wrestle The Rock and Stone Cold and The Undertaker and Jeff Hardy and that entire era was pretty cool. And they had me convinced for a little bit there that they were going to put the big strap on him.
So did I. I thought that man was going to beat Triple H.
It took a little while, and then the marijuana got involved and ruined the plans, whatever. But it was a good show.
Yeah. Well, actually, before we jump into G1, we got to do our July match of the month and a wrestler of the month, which we just finalized here. So, Josh, want to let the people know who our wrestler of the month is.
So there were a lot of really strong candidates, but once we did a lot more digging and kind of introspection, it really became a two-man race. And unsurprisingly, it could have gone either way. It could have been a 1A, 1B. I mean, we've never split the award for the month, but I feel like if there ever was a month, this could have been that month. And it really came down to Will Ospreay, and then just edging him by a nose, the wrestler of the month is Kazuchika Okada. And I mean, both guys had stellar months. Both guys had stellar runs through the G1 Climax. I think the big difference maker for why we've picked Okada versus Ospreay, the truth of the matter is Ospreay was actually a bit more consistent over the course of the month and actually had the higher average match rating, just slightly higher. And this is both, with Jeremy's ratings, Cage Match, and Observer Newsletter and everything like that. But the difference is Okada, even though he didn't have the same average match rating that Ospreay had, he had one match that kind of brought him down. By and large, his overall production, he was peaking higher and had two of the highest rated matches in the month. And you kind of combine that with his win-loss record and the story in the B block kind of centering around him, sort of felt like he was the standout guy this month. So, by a hair, Okada over Ospreay.
Yeah, really close month. And it was also very close for the match of the month. A lot of great matches, including, going back to the beginning of the month with the Independence Day shows. You had the death matches with Mox and
Desperado.
Yeah, Desperado, and also the tag match. It was Desperado and Jun Kasai against Moxley and Homicide. That match was also great too. And then also you had a lot of stuff from the G1. Okada Ospreay was great. Okada Taichi, a lot of great stuff. But ultimately we came down with the vote of Tomohiro Ishii versus Eddie Kingston, which I think is universally the best match of the month. Across again, Cage Match, a lot of Observer ratings, my ratings. A lot of people had that match as one of the top matches of the tournament. So that is our July match of the month.
Yeah, that was a tough call for both categories this month. And one thing I want to point out, we went years where Okada never won any awards for Wrestler of the Month because of how infrequently he was defending the title, and having big matches. But this year he's had several months where he was Wrestler of the Month. So big year for Okada.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see. All right, so let's jump into G1 now, and we'll kind of go over nights 11 and 12 pretty quickly because I feel like people want us to talk about 13 and 14, the final A block and B block nights, and we can try and give some predictions for the quarterfinals. We know we've got the final C and D block nights happening after we record this show. So we'll kind of give some predictions of where we think that's heading and give some predictions for the quarterfinals.
Yeah, we definitely need to have some discussion about the scenarios that are remaining because we didn't do a great job. I don't feel like the last couple weeks laying out the A and the B block scenarios, but now we have pretty clear understanding. It's not going to be a high level discussion, but the information's out there. So
yeah. So let's start back with looking at night 11. So I'll just kind of run through the results and maybe we can kind of give some quick thoughts about what happened on this night.
Sure.
We had Hikuleo defeating Kaito Kiyomiya. Great Okan defeating Yoshihashi, Ren Narita defeating Chase Owens, El Phantasmo defeating Taichi, Sonata defeating Gabe Kidd, Tangaloa defeating Will Ospreay by countout, Yota Tsuji defeating Shota Umino, and then the main event, Kazuchika Okada defeated Kenta.
Yeah, so going into the A block final night, there were quite a few different scenarios that sort of existed on paper. And, it sort of came down to this situation. First and foremost, Sonata had already punched his ticket to be, and this was something we had speculation about last week. Maybe we didn't do a great job researching, but Sonata was already the 1A winner of the block. So it opened up a door where a few different things could have happened. And that final match of the evening, which was Hikuleo versus Shota Umino, that was pretty much
we're talking about night 11 first.
Oh, my bad. It's been a long week. I'm all over the place. Yeah, for this evening, I mean, not one of the strongest cards of the show necessarily, but there were a few standout matches. Yota Tsuji and Shota Umino being one of those matches was especially great. And Sonata versus Gabe Kidd, I thought was pretty good. But by and large, the rest of the show, maybe not necessarily something that I was, overly enthusiastic about.
Yeah, I mean, almost kind of a skippable show. I mean, it was the second to last night before the A block final. So it did kind of set some stuff up for who could potentially come in second place. So Hikuleo getting that win over Kaito Kiyomiya was a big deal for him.
I was shocked that Hikuleo beat Kaito Kiyomiya. I feel like maybe I should have seen that coming, given the fact that it was the opening match of the night, and that just sort of screams like not a big spot, maybe, kind of sneaky under the radar sort of win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then besides that, Tangaloa getting the count out win over Will Ospreay was kind of an upset thing there that allowed ELP to stay alive. ELP getting a win over Taichi allowed him to kind of be in the playoff spot there for the final night. So yeah, overall, this night pretty much kind of set the stage for the final A and B block nights.
And I mean, this pretty much like cemented Okada going into the finals as well for B block.
Yeah, defeating Kenta in the main event there, which that match wasn't really great either.
But, El Phantasmo picking up a win over Taichi, that propelled his story quite a bit. Hikuleo getting the big win over Kiyomiya, that's a huge thing that plays very much so into the A block scenarios that we're going to talk about. Sonata beating Gabe Kidd, again, that same thing that put a huge hamper on his opportunity for the rest of the tournament. And then, that Tangaloa win over Will Ospreay, I just sort of feel like that was one of those, we need something to balance out the booking sheets sort of wins. And it's like he can't beat Ospreay like clean, but we need to give him the 2 points. So they came up with the count out finish.
Yeah. So overall, fine night here. Not a lot to really, I mean, I think Tsuji versus Umino is the one match I would tell people to go out of their way to watch from this night. So then that brings us to night 12, which was last Wednesday in Hiroshima Sun Plaza. This was the second to last C and D block night. So we had Alex Coughlin defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi. We had Mikey Nichols defeating Evil. Toriano defeating Shane Hayes. Hanare defeating Tomohiro Ishii. Hiroki Goto defeating Jeff Cobb. Eddie Kingston defeating Tama Tonga. Tetsuya Naito defeating Zack Sabre Jr. in the semi-main. And then the main event, Shingo Takagi defeats the never openweight champion David Finlay.
So the two high point matches of the evening for me were definitely Hanare versus Tomohiro Ishii, which granted both guys are pretty much out of the running by this point in the tournament, but a fight for pride. And, longtime listeners or fans of New Japan kind of know that, Hanare and Ishii haven't been in the same, ring together for a while, but in the formative years of Hanare, when he first made the jump to like graduate from the dojo, Ishii was the guy that he was like trying to run it with and get all the smoke with all those times.
I felt like it was like every tour.
Yeah, and it went on and on and on and on, and he never was able to beat Ishii. And they had some really fantastic matches, but here we are, 2023, and they had a barn burner. And for me, probably match of the night. I liked this even better than Naito Sabre later in the evening, and I thought it was just incredible, the match that they had, and a lot of great near falls. And ultimately, Hinare was able to hit the Streets of Rage and pick up his first singles victory over Ishii.
Yeah, definitely a big moment there for Hinare. Kind of fighting for pride there, getting some more points on the board there. So yeah, that was an awesome, hard-hitting match. Probably a fight of the year contender for our year-end awards. The Naito Sabre match I thought was a great semi-main event. Probably not the best match they've had together, but still, I thought it was still a pretty great match where Naito looked really good there. And then the main event, I think a lot of people kind of sleeping on this main event. Shingo and David Finlay. I thought Finlay did a great job stepping up to the plate of Shingo, and it was a very kind of more of a never-style, hard-hitting matchup here with Shingo getting the win.
With the table involved.
Yes. Yeah, Shingo taking a big power bomb to the table to the outside.
Yeah, some other really cool stuff on the evening. Alex Coughlin, sort of upsetting Tanahashi. That was a big win. Not a great match, but I loved the finish there. And then Yano and Shane Haste was, something, but definitely one of the crazier Yano matches in the tournament with lots of bucket shenanigans galore. And
yeah, they had the blindfold bag gimmick.
And then Goto beating Jeff Cobb was sort of needed and necessary to keep a lot of different scenarios alive in their block for the D block, but also because the booking's somewhat surprising all the same because of all the injuries he's been having to deal with throughout this tournament. Him being able to pull off the upset there against Jeff Cobb was kind of surprising.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I think this night was probably better than the previous night. A few surprises and some way better matches.
And Naito, and I don't want to gloss over it, Naito and Zack Sabre had an awesome match. Maybe not my favorite match they've ever had, but some really, really great counter wrestling against one another down the stretch, just kind of showcasing how well they know one another. And I love the finish where Naito, it seemed like he was getting ready to go for the DDT, and Zack Sabre Jr. started to counter it, and then Naito turned it into a small package, and a really, really, really tight small package. He sort of out-countered Zack Sabre.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story of their rivalry. Like, Sabre seems to be having the edge every time he goes into the ring with them, and then at the last second, Naito's able to kind of pull one over him. And every time it seems like Sabre has his game up and up every time they wrestle. It just there's always one little hole he leaves open for Naito to slip through, and that's what happened here at the inside cradle.
And Shingo, and obviously this all goes without saying, for the guys that are alive, every win and loss is at this stage of the game is extremely pivotal. But Shingo getting that win over David Finlay cannot be understated how huge that was, because he pretty much would have been done if he'd lost to Dave Finlay there.
Yeah, definitely kept him alive there. He's going to have a big match coming up in the final C block night. So then let's talk about now the final A block night that happened night 13, Saturday, August 5th from the Edion Arena in Osaka. So we had the return of the undercard tag matches here. So show opened up, we had Great Okan and Jeff Cobb defeating Doki and Taichi. We had Hiroki Goto, Yo, and Yoshihashi of Chaos defeating Dave Finlay, Gato, and Kenta of Bullet Club. We had the House of Tortures, Evil, Sho, and Yujiro Takahashi defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, and Naito. The United Empire team of Hinare and Will Ospreay defeated ELP and Togi Makabe. And then the last tag match we had Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii and Hiroshi Tanahashi, the never six-man openweight champions, defeating the team of Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Hiroyoshi Tenzan, which would lead us to the first A-block match of the night, which was the Gene Blast Yota Tsuji defeating Gabe Kidd.
First time we've seen God back together since Tangaloa's return as well.
Yeah.
So, this match was very interesting because it started off, we've been seeing all throughout the tournament how Gabe Kidd has, been attacking people prior to the bell all throughout the tournament using that element of surprise. Well, he overplayed his hand here a little bit because obviously my dog Gene Blast is going to know that this man is trying to jump zone, right?
He watches a product.
Right. He watches the product. So out comes Yota Tsuji, and he's standing there. He's got the big smile on. He's got the facial hair, the long hair in his face. He's got the hood up, and it's like, all right. Well, he's just kind of standing there for a while, standing, and then ultimately bow. Suddenly, Gabe Kidd comes out, starts beating this man, and in the midst of his attack, unbeknownst to the crowd, the camera goes back to the top, and suddenly an uncloaked Yota Tsuji steps out, and you're like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I was really wigged out at first.
The crowd was like not into it either. They went quiet. Like they weren't like, oh, they were like, wait, what? And then it like went back and it was like, well, maybe it's like a young lion under the mask or under the hood. And then it's like, wait, there's Yota Tsuji. Why are there two Yota Tsuji? This is definitely some Kurt and what was his twin brother's name? Eric? I think it was Eric Engel or something.
Oh, yeah, Eric, yeah.
Yeah, it was very similar to Kurt and Eric. We had some twin magic going on, some Bree mode shit going on. Yeah, it turns out we did not know this. Yota Tsuji's got a twin brother, and
that's a stuntman / actor.
Here's the thing about that, and this is my one issue. Well, I've got another issue, but one of my issues with the match. Your brother might be a trained actor and stuntman, but he's not a trained wrestler. And you put him in harm's way to get 2 points on the board. You sent him out there knowing without any defense mechanisms, knowing he was going to get jumped by Gabe Kidd. What if he hit him in the temple and he died? You don't know. This is when you step into the wrestling ring, you don't know what could happen. Anything can happen. And he put his own brother in harm's way. Gene Blast does not give a fuck.
It's all worth it for the 2 points, man. That man's trying to, establish his legacy.
Now, that was something that we did need to talk about here with these scenarios. So, going into this night, in order for Tsuji to still be alive, him and Gabe Kidd were both technically still alive, and whichever won this match had the ability to potentially advance, but there needed to be a myriad of different things that needed to basically take place with ties and certain outcomes. But essentially, both guys were desperate to stay in the running, and that's why this match was pretty important for them. So ultimately, this was, to me, the best match of the night. Once they got in the ring, it really picked up, and they had an awesome match. There was one point, though, where Tsuji he basically sort of no-sold something from Gabe Kidd that didn't make a lot of sense down the stretch. But other than that, the match was pretty immaculate. Oh, you know what it was? It's when he went for that spear and Gabe Kidd hit him with that running Baisaku knee.
Oh, yeah.
Within seconds, Tsuji is up and he's not selling any damage whatsoever. And it just kind of, that for me, I'm not usually someone that's super stringent on the selling, quote unquote, but it also needs to kind of make sense. And if you take really big damage, grab your head or something. This man was up and fine 2 seconds later, just going into a strike exchange. I'm like, what the fuck? You just that was one of the coolest spots of the whole match, and he didn't even sell it.
Yeah. But yeah, besides that, he looked great in the match. Did a cool gut wrench suplex. There was a moonsault that he did for a near fall. Hit the big Falcon Arrow, the curb stomp to Gabe Kidd. And again, like you mentioned, a lot of this great striking. There was a great sequence towards the end there. They're both hitting each other with open hand slaps. Tsuji hits a big headbutt and eventually hits him with the spear to get the win here. So, yeah, this was the match of the night. Awesome match. I thought Tsuji looked really great here. Gabe Kidd, once again, kind of proving why, this tournament's been working out for him. And I think he showed what he had too. And it was a really hard hitting, really fluid matchup.
There might be a very, and it's crazy because of the difference of opinions from different people watching the product, but I think there's a legit argument that maybe Gabe Kidd is the A block MVP, possibly.
Yeah, I think there's an argument for it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty great match.
We had a couple of questions here. Hawaiian Punch BV says, any secret stuntmen twin brothers that you have that we should know about?
I do not.
Yeah, same here. The Dark Soldier says, seriously, what did Shibata teach these LA dojo boys? All of them either left or grown to be bitter and rebelled against the system. You have Gabe Kidd beating up Narita, looking at the camera to send a message to Shibata, and overall tired of their star. You have mentor figures like TJP betraying them to join the United Empire, promos being cut about how New Japan screwed up their lives after they showed loyalty. The dojo system, it doesn't work.
Well, that's a pretty harsh question there, but look at where Shibata's at right now.
Man's in Conland.
Yeah, and I don't know. That whole thing is still fucking weird because it's like they show him with the lion mark on ROH, and we saw the video where he said he re-signed a new deal with New Japan, but then like Dave's saying he's not even signed with New Japan and he's just straight up working for Tony Khan. And recently someone asked Shibata if he was still tied to the dojo, and he's like, no, I just work here. And it's like, what the fuck is going on, bro? Nobody knows.
It's really weird.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want to wonder what's going on with all the trainees, look at the sensei.
Right. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And the tree is very far away right now. So the next match of the night, I think, is the one that started a lot of talking from people, a lot of questions. So it was our boy, the son of Strong Style, Ren Narita, defeating Kaito Kiyomiya, 15 minutes, 17 seconds, knocking Kiyomiya out of the tournament.
I thought you were going to say knocking him out. I was like, yeah, knock him out. Pinned him. No, but so the situation here, essentially at the beginning of the night, was in the main event, you got Hikuleo and Shota Umino. Hikuleo wins, he goes through. If Umino wins, there was a situation where if Kiyomiya won as well, then it would create an unbreakable tie situation, and we would need to find some sort of scenario to find out who would continue through the block between Kiyomiya and Umino. But a lot of that was also contingent on Kiyomiya beating Ren Narita here. Last week on this show, I mentioned that I thought there was a very real possibility that Ren Narita could beat Kiyomiya. But then again, I sort of backtracked on that because I was like, that would kind of knock Kiyomiya out of the block. And so many individuals, myself included, I think yourself included, Jeremy, we all expected Kaito Kiyomiya to be the 2A guy in this block and go through and advance to the final 8. But yeah, now for the match itself, match was great. Very, very good. Probably the second best match of the night. Shocking finish with Kiyomiya going for a Shining Wizard and getting that countered into the bridging suplex for the 1-2-3 loss. And very hard hitting, really great stuff. But lots of questions about the booking here and the decisions that were made and how it came to pass and how it was even allowed to happen in the first place.
Yeah, and Reddit user Death Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan messed up with the booking of Kaito at the end? And I mean, here's the thing. I think a lot of blame has to go to Pro Wrestling Noah.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Like, how do you say, all right, yeah, you guys can use our ace, a guy that we're building the future of our company around, and yeah, you can beat him, on the last night. He doesn't even get into the quarterfinals, doesn't get into the semifinals, not in the finals. Like, you feel like if that guy is that important to you, you should negotiate to make sure he gets a good spot in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, yes. Do I think it sucks that New Japan brought a guy in from the outside who is, someone that's seen as an ace level status character from the rival company, and basically booked them in like a third or fourth place role in the tournament ultimately? Yeah, I think that sucks. But it really is incumbent on the home promotion, Pro Wrestling Noah, to work those kinks out with the promoter before they ever allow him to go over. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, his booking's not going to be that far different. And in fact, in some ways, it's even lower than that of, like, say, Eddie Kingston in the C block. But Eddie Kingston's not the ace of AEW or even Ring of Honor. He's like a upper mid, let's be honest, somewhat mid, upper mid type guy in the standings there, depending on how you see him.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was Adam Cole or Chris Jericho or
Kenny Omega,
Bryan Danielson or Kenny Omega, they wouldn't be getting treated like this in the G1. Ultimately, it does come down to Noah giving the okay for him to be in the tournament, to also have had that discussion with management and the booking committee and saying, like, yeah, so he's going through to the final 8, right? And instead, that's not what's happening. So somewhere along the way, someone with his company dropped the ball. And there's been this undercurrent from the New Japan fan base. And, Jeremy, you and I don't think that you and I have ever on the air stated that we bought into this idea that New Japan is courting after Kiyomiya,
Right.
And part of the reason why is because historically it's extremely uncommon and frowned upon to see a top star from one company jump ship directly to another competing brand like that. I the two instances I think you can think of recently would be like Jake Lee going to Noah from All Japan, and that's not quite the same thing. And then maybe Shingo leaving Dragon Gate to come to New Japan, after all those years in the company. But the idea that this was all to draw Kiyomiya to the company, I've never thought that was the case. I didn't discount its possibility, but to me, it always just felt like this was a great way to get an outside top guy in so we could sell tickets, so we can have synergy between the brands. But that's about it. I never thought that they were trying to recruit the guy. And to me, everything about this tells me they weren't trying to recruit him necessarily.
Yeah, clearly that they had a theme for the A block. Like we want the A block to be a bunch of young, up and coming talent. They see Kiyomiya in that light, and that's where they're able to slot him there. And yeah, I don't think they were trying to necessarily sign him. I think he fit what they were looking for, and there was a story that they could tell with him. And going forward, it's again what we talked about last week, where New Japan wants to help the state of wrestling in Japan as a whole. And how do you help out Pro Wrestling Noah? Put their ace in your top tournament of the year and have him have a good run and face off against some of your young up-and-coming guys, and then he can go back to Noah as a bigger star being exposed to the New Japan audience. So yeah, I don't think it was ever really about helping or trying to get Kiyomiya. I think it was just about trying to help wrestling in Japan.
Well, the other thing, too, you got to think about the business side of things. And for me, I feel like it benefited New Japan as well as Pro Wrestling Noah to potentially have him in the tournament. And, the one thing that people had earmarked on the docket is the idea that somewhere down the line, we would see Kiyomiya versus Okada, the return match. So much so that, like, I had Kiyomiya in my finals of the tournament. That's
Same
how
here.
far I saw this guy going.
Yeah.
Which kind of blows up my bracket entirely. And, it's like, all right, they pushed someone else from their own homegrown roster through, and that's fine. But, and I see from a business perspective why New Japan might have done that, because at the end of the day, long-term thinking, they're not, Kiyomiya does not work for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, he doesn't affect their bottom line in that way. But I feel like when you have 8 slots and you're putting through 7 New Japan guys, it's not a bad idea for the intrigue, for the talk, for the hype, for the buzz to put Kiyomiya through. And then you still have that possibility of the Okada match or whatever other stories you want to tell. I feel like they made the wrong choice here. Honestly, I really, really do feel that way.
Yeah,
but
I agree with you.
The blame still has to come down to Pro Wrestling Noah. We already saw at the Tokyo Dome this year how New Japan played and handled with Okada and Kiyomiya. We've seen how they, you know, as the top company, how they play with others in the country when it comes to the booking of their talent versus other talent. And I don't think that it's a great look for any company to have any of your guys to go into a tournament like this, unless it's a middle of the road guy, and to be booked middle of the road. But when you have a top guy from a rival company and they come in and they're not even in the top 8, that's a big fuck you to that company and to their brand. And the idea that they let that happen to their guy maybe does say that Kiyomiya needs to figure something out and go somewhere else. And I'm not even saying it's New Japan. I don't know what's next for the kid, but this is not how you build a top guy for your company. And I think that for New Japan, it's also short-sighted, because we're going to talk about who got through from this block, but I don't think that from a storytelling perspective and great match perspective and intrigue that they, you know, picked somebody. I mean, it'd be one thing if they picked one of the Musketeers or Gabe Kidd to go through, but that's not the decision that they made here, and it's a little baffling.
Yeah. So let's get to that. So first, we had Sonata defeating Chase Owens in the semi-main event, 9 minutes 13 seconds. So we
did have some questions, but I think we answered them essentially.
Yeah, we did. But yeah, well, this Sonata and Chase match, we talked about last week that the whole goal here for Chase was to get the win over Sonata and get a world title match. And Sonata apparently got a left bicep or some kind of left arm injury, had to go back to Tokyo to get it looked at and back to the tournament. So coming in weak and Chase having a big bullseye on him already to try and get a title shot. And so kind of a quick match of Chase trying to take advantage of Sonata, but Sonata kind of putting Chase away pretty quickly towards the end there, kind of hit a new gas pedal there, hit the deadfall, and was able to pin Chase pretty quickly.
Yeah, I heard some individuals that were very nervous about this match because they were very worried and concerned that we were going to wind up with a Chase Owens mandatory title defense from Sonata. And I had no doubt that that was not really on the table. Once we saw this guy go through everybody else in the block, it just seemed so far-fetched that the one loss that he would receive is from Chase Owens. I think it made a nice little bow and ribbon on the story that they're trying to tell there. Sonata goes through unscathed. You know, he beats Chase Owens. For the match itself, I don't know if I was super into it because Chase kind of controlled a lot of the match here, trying to garner the belief from the fan base that he did stand a chance at winning here. But ultimately, Sonata wins with the deadfall and continues on. And the only guy in this year's tournament that is undefeated in block action.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Chase was able to get Sonata into the Paradise Lock.
The Paradise Lock.
And locked him up. And I guess he's been bugging Milano all tour to teach him how to do it, but he said he learned by himself and got him in it. But, you know, Sonata was able to get it pretty quickly and got him in the Paradise Lock. So that was pretty funny. But, yeah, overall, yeah, quick matchup. Sonata gets the win here. And we had a question here from Hawaiian Punch BB. Will Sonata go undefeated in the G1 and drag Muto out of retirement so he can retire him again?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, I definitely think Sonata will eat a loss in the playoff portion of the tournament, but it's like we mentioned last week. Like, once he beat everybody else, what was the point of having him lose a chase? Like, I get it. Maybe if it was like somebody that was a world title contender that you could actually set a program up with, but with it being Chase and he's already 6-0, you might as well just have him go 7-0 and clean the block out. So that takes us to the big main event here, which I think also goes along with the discussion with Kiyomiya losing. So we had Hikuleo defeating Shota Umino 17 minutes and 21 seconds.
Yeah, so as we discussed earlier in the show, it really came down to Hikuleo and Shota Umino in the main event. Winner gets to go through as the A2 winner of the block. And it is kind of surprising here that because of how dominant Sonata was in the block, it necessitated an 8-point winner to go through, which is not necessarily a point total that we were thinking would qualify someone to go through, or at least it would be highly unlikely. It sort of felt like you needed at least 10 in most instances. But yeah, we wound up with a situation where these two guys both sitting at 6. And for my money, if you were going to have Kiyomiya lose and then put Shota Umino in there, I think that he probably should have been the guy that won. I think this is a huge upset, probably one of the biggest upsets of the entire tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And the match itself was pretty good, but it was a very similar story to what we saw between Hikuleo and Kiyomiya and some of the other matches, where Hikuleo's a big monster. The smaller guy tries to find a way to overcome him. Typically, it's going to be them attacking the leg and focusing their attacks in that way, trying to cut him down to size. And looking like they're, then Hikuleo rallies back. Suddenly, the challenger has their big comeback, and they're doing really well. They have a bunch of near falls, but out of nowhere, Hikuleo cuts him off with a body slam or a power slam. And then the giant, what's he called? The Godsend?
Yeah, Godsend chokeslam.
The Godsend chokeslam for the 1, 2, 3. And it sort of feels very, a lot of the matches that Hikuleo's had, it felt very formulaic in that way. I mean, some of the moves themselves are pretty dynamic, and they've done a great job kind of setting up the idea that spinning body slam and then the choke slam are his like go-to finishes, the setup and the finish. And it seems like if you get hit with that choke slam, it's like the bad luck fall. No matter who you are, you're probably going to lose 1, 2, 3. But the matches haven't been that great. And I know we're kind of changing our tune here, or at least I am, because we were complaining in the beginning of the tournament that they weren't giving enough to Hikuleo. But I don't feel personally that he's ready to be one of the block finalists. I mean, I guess there is some sense here. He's the one giant in the block, so maybe it does kind of make sense that all of the Musketeers kind of cannibalize themselves and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. This just doesn't do it for me. And I'm not that excited. This feel, especially with Kiyomiya in the block, like, what are we doing? I don't get it.
Yeah, I was not thrilled by this decision. Going into this main event, I had been spoiled that Kiyomiya didn't win. So I was like, oh, well, Umino's going to win, and I'm here just waiting for Umino to win. And, I thought he did look really great in this match. He was doing the whole spot where he was trying to body slam Hikuleo, and eventually was able to do that. He was able to hit a German suplex. He was hitting some big offense on Hikuleo and firing up, and he kept escaping the choke slam. I'm like, all right, any minute now, he's going to hit the Death Rider and win. And then nope, like you said, he got cut off with that power slam, ate the choke slam, and got pinned. I was stunned. I was baffled. I'm like, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, there weren't a ton of major upsets in this tournament, so I guess kudos to them on doing something different and bold. And there are 8 slots, so you can put in some. It might not have been the most inspired thing in the world to go completely chalk for the finalists in every block. And it does do something for Hikuleo, a guy that we said the company needed to get behind. But damn, bro, like, I don't know. I can't think of so I mean the way it's going to pan out, he's gonna fight someone from the D block, whoever the D1 winner is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's probably gonna be either Shingo, Evil, Eddie Kingston or
No, that's C. So he's going to face either Naito, Sabre, or Cobb.
Yeah, Naito, Sabre, or Cobb. My bad. None of those matches sound that compelling to me.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, it does not sound great. And I get it. I know people probably like, well, you guys have been saying for weeks they need to continue the push of Hikuleo. And yes, but not this way.
Yeah, like measured, like baby steps. Like, you know what I mean? Here's the thing. If he was in this tournament and he was fucking shit up and he was wrecking everybody and if he was having a performance, he doesn't even have to have great matches, right? Not a ton of them. But if he was just fucking people up and then had one or two great matches, like let's say like a Jonah last year.
Yeah.
If he had a Jonah tournament, I would be like, hell yeah, this is going to be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he didn't have a Jonah tournament. He had like a Fale tournament. That's not something you want to see go to the final 8.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, just really kind of questionable. I mean, his whole year has just been really weird. Like, you have him beat Jay White. You don't put him in the New Japan Cup. You put the strong title on him, but then he loses it right back to Kenta. And now he's in the G1. He loses his first 3 matches, and all of a sudden now he's in the quarterfinals. Just,
you know what would have been a great way for them to push him? He comes on strong down the tail stretch of the tournament, like he did, and then he loses to Shota Umino in the final match of the evening. Very similar to like a trajectory we saw from Lance Archer in last year's tournament. That would have been strong. That would have been great. That's his first tournament, finishes in a very strong placement, but instead he's going through and it's like, I don't know. The idea of Cobb, Naito, or Zack Sabre potentially wrestling either Shota Umino or Kiyomiya is a lot more appetizing than the idea that we're getting Hikuleo here. So I'm just kind of, and I don't know, like, I think that he has a utility player role as a big man, but so far we haven't seen the goods from him to really warrant a push where I'm like, yeah, he's a main event caliber guy. He's not yet.
Yeah, and I think in a time where they're trying to rebuild and create new stars, it felt like this would have been the perfect opportunity to put a guy like, if you're not going to put Kiyomiya, put a guy like Shota Umino through. Like, he's clearly the guy that you think is going to be the ace out of this new Three Musketeers and now the set of young lions. Like, give him his spot. Like, he doesn't have to even advance out of the quarterfinals. Like, let's get him in there in the Elite 8 where he's next to guys like Naito and Okada and Ospreay. It's like, all right, Umino's on the level of these guys.
They could have, the only thing that would have been worse is if they put Chase Owens through from this block, but literally any other outcome would have been better. Tsuji, Umino, Narita, Kiyomiya, Kid. I would have preferred any of them.
Yeah, Tsuji, I mean, they need to strap the rocket on this guy. I know he got a heavy push in the beginning, but he needs, like, he's a guy I would have heavily considered making one of the guys going through here.
Well, we finished the A block. The standings are as follows. Sonata undefeated with 7 wins at 14 points. He is your A1 finalist. Your A2 finalist is Hikuleo, 4 wins, 3 losses with 8 points. In third place, Yota Tsuji, 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw with 7 points. And then you have Shota Umino, Keito Kiyomiya, and Ren Narita all tied with 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, all 3 sitting at 6 points. Gabe Kidd follows with a record of 2-4-1, and then Chase Owens at the bottom of the block, 2-5 with 4 points.
All right, so let's move on to night 14. This was Sunday, August 6th, also in the Edion Arena in Osaka. So we had the show open up. We had Doki and Sonata defeating Kaito Kiyomiya and Rei Oiwa. We had Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii defeating Kosei Vegeta and Mikey Nichols. Hanare and Jeff Cobb defeating Tenzan and Tama Tonga. Chase Owens and Dave Finley defeating Eddie Kingston and Togi Makabe. The LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, Naito, and Yota Tsuji defeating all the House of Torture. And then that brought us to the tournament action. So first up, we had Kenta defeating Yoshihashi.
Yeah, and on that undercard, we had a The first night, we didn't have too many things leading to the rest of the tournament in a meaningful way, but we had a few different standoffs, post-match attacks, that sort of thing, but nothing I would say was essential viewing or anything like that.
Right, yeah. Normally, they would be some kind of like carryover angles that could lead to tournament matches, but there wasn't really a ton of that here with these undercards.
Probably the biggest one was like Evil did attack Shingo, and then I think they tried to shave his head a little bit afterwards, which was, kind of weird.
Yeah, well, there's an ongoing thing with Evil. That Evil said that if he doesn't win the G1 or something like that, he's going to shave his head bald. So he was trying to get the Shingo by shaving Shingo's head.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So first match of the night, Kenta and Yoshihashi, they're both essentially eliminated. So they're really just playing for pride. And Kenta, it's pretty much, 2023 Kenta bullshit all throughout the match.
Oh, yeah.
At a certain point, Yoshihashi is able to fire up and kind of get his comeback going, but then Kenta just kind of chickens out, hits him with a small package, and picks up the unexpected victory for, to get to 6 points.
Yeah, we had a question here from Hawaiian Punch BB. When is Gato going to give Yoshihashi his wins over Okada and Kenta? Do you see a never openweight title run in his future?
Yeah, it is funny. I've seen some support out there online from people that are very upset with how incredible Yoshihashi's been allowed to be in the G1 past few years, but he keeps getting booked, subpar. I still think the Kiyomiya issue is a much more pressing matter, but there are those out there that are upset about the way Yoshihashi was booked in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why he couldn't have beaten Kenta here. But I get, Kenta is a bigger star in Japan, Defy champion. I guess there's several reasons you could probably point to why they wanted him to end up higher than Yoshihashi, but I don't know. I felt if it was me, I would have given Yoshihashi the win here.
I pretty much agree with that, but the match was nothing great from either guy really at this point.
Yeah. So that brought us to the next match. We had Great-O-Khan defeating Taichi.
Match was fine. Not necessarily great. I liked the mat work down the stretch, which was a little bit of a different kind of vibe from what we're used to seeing from Taichi. But, ultimately he got choked out by Great-O-Khan with a head-arm triangle choke, which was maybe a little too prolonged at 17 minutes and 41 seconds. I don't know if I necessarily needed this match to go that long at this point in the tournament, but it is what it is. It kind of felt like on the back end that they sort of just had O-Khan picking up wins to bring him more to a parity level on the scorecard at the end of the day, but he was one of the earliest ones eliminated. So,
Yeah, it was almost too little too late for him at this point.
And I mean, it's also disappointing from Taichi because I would have liked to see him finish with 8 points. I'd rather see him at 8 points and O-Khan be at a deficit, and both guys be in a different place than they were when the tournament started. Now they're both at 6 points, and it's just kind of like, all right, well, I guess it's it's a little 50-50, and I don't love that.
Yeah, especially I feel like Taichi started the tournament so hot. O'Con's just kind of been kind of meandering, kind of middle of the road the whole tournament.
I'm always one who's going to be more apt to be granted. Yes, I wanted O-Khan to do well in this block and do well in this tournament, but once he didn't, there's no reason to bring him back up to parity with everybody else. Let him have the tragic downfall, and then he has his story from there. And same thing with Taichi. If he's going to beat some of the top guys in the block and have some incredible showings, let him take a step up to show where he's at in the trajectory. Instead, they had him start hot and then brought him middle of the road at the end. And then they had O-Khan start low and brought him middle of the road. And by the end of it, neither man is anywhere better off in the tournament than they were when they started, aside from the fact that you can point to a Taichi win over O-Khan or Ospreay.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much in the exact same spot. I guess the one thing you do set up is a KOPW match. Okan could challenge Taichi for that after G1.
Well, after this match, I'm not that interested in that happening anyways.
Yeah, same here. Unless the rules are something a lot better than what they did here.
Yeah, I mean, Okan was one of the few guys that had matches with Shingo that just really didn't hit during his KOPW run.
Yeah. So then following that, we had Kazuchika Okada defeating Tangaloa 12 minutes and 33 seconds. Okada did have some...
What the fuck is Tangaloa doing in here, bro? Somebody come get your boy. Someone come get T, because I don't know what the fuck was happening. He's like, huh, and bro, not only was Okada selling it, but hats off to they were in Osaka, right?
Yes.
Bro, this Osaka crowd going, oi, oi.
Yeah, they were into it. But yeah, I mean, from the previous night, Okada did have some pretty harsh comments in his post-match comments for Tangaloa, saying, Tangaloa's so boring. He's like, there's no passion, there's no fire behind his moves, and pretty much just kind of buried him, saying there's no reason why he should be in G1. And then, yeah, came out here, and yeah, Tangaloa almost kind of proved his point here.
Yeah, man, he was hitting him with the least fiery, devastating shots you've ever seen. Just like a backhand that would make John Cena's backhand look like one of the greatest moves you ever saw, and then a knife thrust to the throat that was like bro, it was so fucking bad.
It was pretty weak, and I Kevin and Chris were like trying their best to like cover it up. Charles was like, oh, it's like a 1-inch punch.
No, Kevin said that.
Yeah, Kevin said that.
It looks like a 1-inch punch. No, bro.
And then he did like a big chop at the end, and then Chris goes, "Oh, got him that time." Oh my god!
Okada had already won the B1 position in this tournament, so and Tangaloa was already out, so it was really just sort of Tangaloa trying to overcome the criticisms of Okada from the previous evening. But this was the worst match of the evening for the tournament matches, and it's got some pretty abysmal ratings, and if you want to read some funny shit, go read the comments on Dave's match about this match.
Oh man, yeah.
Okay. Here's a funny one. Maybe as low as an Okada match is going to get. He improved over the course of the tournament, but using a G1 to tune yourself back up after a long injury is a bizarre move from Loa. He had some embarrassing offense with some chops. Basically, no stakes to this either.
Yeah. It's one of those situations where, like, I would have rather had Filthy Tom Lawler in here than Tangaloa.
Oh, I 100% agree. Here's another one. Whatever the fuck the flurry of offense was from Tangaloa, it was so awful, so pathetic looking that I laughed out loud. Actually, literally hilarious. And he's done it multiple times during this G1, and every time it was bad. But not this bad. This was even worse than the punches from Okan against, I think it was Kenta. Okada does some work to save the match from being a stinker, but I can't get past the horrible sequence from Tangaloa that Okada actually tried to sell in the corner. 3.0.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Shout out to Okada for actually selling that.
There's a part of me that like remembered like when I was wrestling, one of the things they told you is like, however hard you're willing to get hit is how hard you should hit the other guy. Maybe on this night, like T was like, I just don't want to get hit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that was. It was so crazy, bro.
Yeah, that's botchamania worthy right there.
Bro, when you consider like Tamatonga's run against Okada in this tournament a couple years ago, and then you juxtapose that against Tangaloa's, it's a tale of two brothers, two different outcomes, two different styles. It is crazy.
Yeah. Like I say, some guys are just better off as tag team wrestlers. So, yeah, Okada gets the win here and fully locks up the B1 spot, ends the tournament with 12 points. And that brought us to the main event, which was Will Ospreay versus El Phantasmo, where Ospreay was coming in with 8, ELP coming in with 6. Had ELP beaten Ospreay, he would have the tiebreaker over Ospreay and be the B2, and then also Will need to win also to become B2.
Yeah, and I think Taichi actually had some sort of scenario where he could have potentially advanced had he beaten Okan if things, or like a tiebreaker sort of scenario, but I could be wrong on that. But ultimately, it did kind of come down to if Will either won or drew against ELP, he'd go through. If ELP won, then he goes through. So it really just kind of came down to the main event here. And on what was one of the worst nights of tournament matches, granted it was only the 4, we perhaps have the best match of the entire tournament in this main event between Ospreay and ELP.
Yeah, this match was absolutely incredible. Just the sequence in this match, the back and forth. Phantasmo, I feel like this was like his coming out party here. Like this reminded me a lot of the Phantasmo Rocky Romero match from Best of Super Juniors, where it was kind of the breakout best match of the tournament. Like, and also the ELP Eagles match from Super Juniors. I think that was last year. Like ELP just really knows how to have these great kind of last night performances.
Yeah, it's sort of heartbreaking for El Phantasmo to again not be able to succeed and go through. I know that his 2 big claims to fame in singles action with New Japan were winning the Super J Cup on 2 subsequent attempts. But both of those tournaments sort of were special events that sort of existed in their own realm and didn't necessarily have the strong, sort of impact that you would expect from a tournament named Super J Cup. I can't even recall if he even got title shots based off of those wins or not.
I don't think he did. If he did, he lost.
Yeah. But when he was in the juniors, every year it felt like he was a very strong candidate to either win or even final a Super Junior, and he never did. And then now he's in the heavyweight division. He hasn't won a title yet. It is still early goings, but he never won the junior title when he was a junior. And now he has an opportunity to advance in the G1, and he gets knocked out against, longtime rival Will Ospreay. And it's sort of like, damn, like, what does this guy got to do to be the guy to go through? And it does make sense that Ospreay goes through. I'm not complaining about that. Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers alive today, and ELP's not that far off from him at this point right now. But at the same time, considering the fact that Will is the U.S. champion, there just kind of did feel like there was an air of maybe an upset was a brewing. And if there was anybody in this block that would knock Ospreay out of contention and go through themselves, and you wanted to elevate a guy, ELP is not a bad person to do it. So it felt like it was realistic, like a possibility, but ultimately it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, especially with the night before, you had Hikuleo going over Umino, and so like, oh well, they're doing upsets, they're putting people through that you don't expect them to put through. It definitely seems like putting ELP through could have been a good move here, and I get that he's kind of going through his Gato Books heartbreak moments. He's had a rough personal side of the tournament with his grandfather passing away, and he has no unit, no friends, and he felt he let the fans down. So this is kind of like a whole character arc and rebuilding thing for him. But yeah, it's still, I think, would have been a great moment to kind of catapult him and get him in. But then again, if you have a guy like Hikuleo, skating through into the Elite Eight, you kind of want a Will Ospreay to kind of be one of your 8 guys in there.
Not complaining that Ospreay got through whatsoever. What I am saying is, if you're going to do one of those big upsets, I'd rather it have been Hikuleo losing to Shota Umino,
right,
than it be, this one. But I guess beggars can't be choosers. But The match itself was phenomenal. These guys went out there, and they've had quite a few matches in the past. And, Jeremy, it's just, I don't want to say that the matches have been bad because they haven't been bad, but especially during that era of El Phantasmo's run, I never loved a single one of the Osprey Phantasmo matches. The best one that I can remember is last year in the G1 when they were facing off, and that felt like the first time I was like, okay, we're getting like a true main event style match between these guys. And even then, it was a little bit unbalanced because ELP was working junior and didn't get to be on the same level as Will. But on this night, we finally got to see what a heavyweight style match between these two guys looks like. And it was out of this world. I mean, super highly athletic, very fast paced, very dangerous. They did a lot of really crazy stuff. The drama was high, but the crowd, this has got to be the most. This might act, and I don't even just mean of this tournament. This might be the loudest I've heard a crowd be for a New Japan match since we returned to cheering crowds.
Yeah, the Osaka crowd here was great. They were biting every near fall, and these guys, I mean, they deserve the crowd reaction. What they did here, I mean, ELP did the rope walk into the moonsault spot, followed up that with the lion salt in the ring. Okada was super vicious, or Ospreay was super vicious with the Kawada kicks. Yeah, a lot of great back and forth. ELP did that 720 DDT thing in the ring. Spanish flies, several reversals of the Stormbreaker. ELP hitting a Poison Rana, using the sudden death super kick for several near falls throughout the matchup here. But yeah, the closing was just great. There were so many great near falls here. Where Ospreay, who's going for the hidden blade, ELP counters it with a Hurricane Rana for a near fall. He hits the CR2, which, that's his main finish, and will get out of that. Crowd is going nuts after that. He goes to leap off the ropes. Ospreay catches him with the Oz Cutter. It's another Oz Cutter, then the hidden blade, and Phantasmo kicks out of that at 1830, which was absolutely crazy. That was a big kick out there, and then Ospreay hits him with the Storm Driver 93, his super finisher, to get the win.
Yeah, and he hit it correctly, the right way you're supposed to do it, where the other guy lands first, you jump back, they land high angle on their shoulders. It was great. My heart broke for ELP, and that's just where we're at. There was a period where I literally despised watching him wrestle, and now we're at a point where I'm heartbroken for the guy because he didn't win in this tournament. But Ospreay goes through. He's the B2 winner, and for me, this is the match of the month and the match of the tournament so far, which that's high praise when you're talking about the G1 Climax. If you haven't seen this match, you need to go out of your way, and even if you're just cherry picking, you got to see this one.
Yeah, this is incredible. It's my number one match of the tournament. I went 4.75 on it. Yeah, you definitely have to go out of your way and watch this matchup. We had a couple questions here. Wukong 901 on Reddit says, ELP had a pretty solid tournament. His story afterwards got development with GOD pulling him up to raise him from his lowest point. It makes sense in storyline sense, but how do you feel about the development of our resident nipple twister?
Yeah, post-match at the end of the show, you saw Tangaloa and Tamatonga go and kind of console ELP a little bit, offer to get him a bite of food, and said that they need to talk about things. And, they've been mentioning on commentary how ELP is a man with, he's an island unto himself. He's a man without a country. And now, GOD are sort of talking to him, and it feels like we might see a break-off group from Hontai, whatever that may be. So that's maybe not a bad way to go for all those guys involved.
Yeah, well, they've already kind of been labeling all, like, Hikuleo and Jado all as GOD, so, yeah, I'm guessing, they'll kind of throw ELP into the fold, and GOD will kind of be more of its own thing instead of kind of being a part of Hontai.
Maybe they should be something other than GOD.
Yeah, I like that better for just the tag team name versus making the whole group GOD.
Yeah, but as far as ELP, I mean, I think he's a guy that could be one of the top guys for the company, honestly.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely proved his worth here. Les Commission 7252 says the last night of the B block was a dud until the main event. Was Ospreay and Phantasmo the best match out of the B block?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's the best match of the whole tournament right now. They absolutely killed it.
So you're standing with the B block at the end of night 12. You have Kazuchika Okada, your A1 finalist, 6 wins, 1 loss, 12 points. Your B2 finalist, Will Ospreay, 6 wins, 2 losses, 10 points. Following that, you have third place Taichi, 3 wins, 4 losses, 6 points. El Phantasmo tied at 6 points. Tangaloa tied at 6 points. Kenta tied, and Great Okan, they're all tied at 6 points. And then the bottom of the block, Yoshihashi, 2 wins, 5 losses, 4 points.
Poor Yoshihashi.
So let's jump into our preview of the last 2 nights of the tournament to determine who's going into the final 8. So for the C block, you have David Finlay sitting at 4 wins, 2 losses at 8 points. He's tied with Evil and Eddie Kingston, all with the same score. Tama Tonga is at 7 points, tied with Shingo Takagi. Mikey Nichols is at 4 points, and he's out, as well as Hanare with 4 points, and Tomohiro Ishii sitting at 2 points, and he is out. On the final evening of C block action on night 15, Tuesday, August 8th at Yokohama Budokan, the tournament action is going to start after the undercard. During that undercard, we have Kiyomiya Oiwa versus the United Empire's Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. Tomoaki Hanma and Toriano versus Bullet Club War Dogs, Alex Coughlin and Gabe Kidd. Hikuleo and Jado, along with Umino, versus the Strong Style Trio. Chaos, Goto and Yo, along with Oscar Luebe, versus TMDK's Fujita, Haste, and ZSJ. And then to top that off, Tanahashi, Wato, and Makabe versus LIJ's Bushi, Naito, and Yota Tsuji. In the tournament action here, we have Ishii versus Nichols, Tama Tonga versus Henare, Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay, and Shingo Takagi versus Evil in the main event. Jeremy, I do have some of the outcomes and scenarios here if you want me to kind of go over that.
Sure, go for it.
So in the 6th match, Ishii and Nichols, they're both mathematically eliminated. When it comes to the Tama Tonga Hanare match, Hanare is mathematically eliminated. Tama Tonga is not. I'm not gonna get into the weeds with the high level explanations of everything, but basically, in order for Tama Tonga to stay alive, he needs to win. Following that, the 8th match of the night, Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay. Whoever wins that match, the winner advances. And then in the main event, if Evil either has a win or a draw, he advances. And if Shingo wins, he advances. So while, Tama Tonga is alive, if he wins, he would basically need some sort of crazy. I don't even know what the scenario is, but he would need something crazy to happen where I think multiples of these people are drawing essentially for him to potentially even get a tie or something like that.
Because if he wins, he'll get to 9 points, and then Shingo would also get to 9 if he wins, so they would be tied. But Shingo already beat him though.
Right. So he is alive technically, and this is from the official New Japan website. So yeah, there is a scenario where if Tama wins, he could probably get a tiebreaker situation, but ultimately, the simple logic of it all is Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay. Whoever wins that, they're going through, period.
Yeah.
And in the main event, if Shingo wins, he goes through. And if Evil wins or draws, he goes through. So I think that if there's a draw scenario with Eddie Kingston and David Finlay, and if Tama Tonga wins, that creates a situation where he could potentially be the guy.
Yeah, because then all of them would be at 9. And then if Shingo won, you would have like a 4-way tie at 9 that could all work out for him somehow. But I think it's going to be pretty simple. Like, I know we have to explain scenarios because they're there, but I feel like Gato is not going to go with the complicated thing.
They haven't been doing the complicated thing, but it's just there. I think ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if any other scenario other than Tama Tonga wins occurs here, whether that's Hanare beating him, whether that's a draw, whether that's a double count out or some sort of disqualification or count out victory for Hanare. Something like that can happen here.
Yeah, I think Hanare is going to get the win here, and that'll put him up to 6 points, which would be a pretty good record for him, for this being his second G1 in these 4-block formats. I feel like that'll be a good record for him to have there. So yeah, I can definitely see Hanare pulling the upset, and plus, he's beating a former never openweight champion. It could be something that sets him up for a title match down the line.
Well, and you know what? I take that back. Now that I'm thinking a little bit more about it, because there's probably going to be a winner in the semi-main event and the main event, Tama Tonga could just win. It's not unlike the scenario that we saw in the A block where Tsuji needed to win to stay alive, but ultimately got disqualified just because of the nature of the main event, how it turned out.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Tama wins, he's alive, and then ultimately, there's a winner in both the semi and the main event, and he just doesn't qualify.
Yeah, that could definitely happen, but I feel like they'll get. I think they're gonna give a win to Hanare here. I feel like they have been trying to make these earlier matches just kind of the guy kind of losing to fully get them out of the tournament. So yeah, I think Hanare is gonna win.
We did see Ishii and Nichols go head to head and sort of attack each other a little bit after the bell during their preview match the night before, so that might be pretty good, but really, it's a tale of two matches. It's really Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay and Takagi versus Evil. Now, I got to tell you, I haven't done enough research to tell you if certain people win, how they're going, which of the C1 and C2 winners they're going to be. I don't know that information. But my feeling here is that David Finlay is going to beat Eddie Kingston. And then I think Takagi is going to be Evil, or at least that's what I'm hoping happens.
That's what I'm feeling like too. With Finlay, I think it makes a lot of sense to have him beat Eddie Kingston. We talked about this on the preview show. Eddie was the one who beat Jay White to end his New Japan career officially, and Finlay was the one that kind of swooped in on that night and made his name. So I think it's kind of a full circle moment to have Finlay beat Eddie Kingston, do something that Jay White couldn't do to really establish him as a Bullet Club leader. And yeah, I think Shingo is going to beat Evil. I mean, Evil's always gets in these spots where you don't want him to win, so you can get some good crowd heat. There's history there with LIJ. And then base how the bracketing works out. If Shingo wins and becomes C2, he would face Sonata on the quarterfinal for the night. And we know we've seen this kind
of matches.
Yeah, we've seen this LIJ Just Five Guys rivalry, and Shingo's the one guy Sonata has not faced since he's joined Just Five Guys.
Yeah, we know that the C2 winner is going to go on to face Sonata in the final 8, and the C1 winner is going to go on to face Will Ospreay. And yeah, that entire theory about the David Finlay Eddie Kingston outcome was first brought to my attention by Chris Samsa when he was on the show during the preview, and he really sold me on that idea, and it's pretty much come to fruition. And he's a guy that literally has won his own prediction contest in the past. So I usually take special consideration of his predictions, but I think that's what we're going to see here. I think Eddie Kingston loses to Dave Finlay, and then I think Shingo beats Evil. The other reason too is because it's like I feel very confident Dave Finlay's going through no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if Evil wins, you've got two guys from Bullet Club going through that just doesn't kind of jive with me from the same block. I feel like it sort of needs to be Shingo.
Yeah. So then
that's going to bring us to the D block here. Anything else you want to say about the C block before we move on?
No, I think it's a pretty cut and dry scenario. I think Finlay and Shingo are the favorites there, and I think with their matchups, it makes the most sense. So if Finlay gets C1, he will be going against Ospreay, and we know that there's history there from last year's G1. And then, like I mentioned, with Shingo being C2, he'd face Sonata.
Nice. So in the D block, you have leading the block Jeff Cobb and Zack Sabre Jr., as well as Tetsuya Naito, all tied at 8 points, 4 wins, 2 losses. Following that, you have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Hiroki Goto, both alive with 3 wins, 3 losses, sitting at 6 points. And then mathematically eliminated Shane Haste, Alex Coughlin, sitting at 4 points, along with Toriano. On night 16, Wednesday, August 9th at Axe City Hamamatsu. On the undercard, you have Eddie Kingston and Yuto Nakashima taking on the House of Torture's Evil and Show. Keito Kiyomiya and Rihoi Oiwa versus Team Decay's Kosei Fujita and Mikey Nichols. Hikuleo, Wato, and Umino taking on the Bull Club team of Dave Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Geto. Tomoaki Hanma and Tomohiro Ishii taking on the United Empire's Okan and Hanare. And then finally, the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, and Yota Tsuji taking on the Strong Style Trio. And then in tournament action, our final block matches of the tournament, you have Toriano versus Alex Coughlin, Shane Haste versus Jeff Cobb, Hiroki Goto versus Zack Sabre Jr., and your main event, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Tetsuya Naito. And the different scenarios that you have laid out. As far as the tournament matches go, Yano and Coughlin both eliminated. They're playing for pride. In the 7th match of the night, Shane Haste is mathematically eliminated, but Jeff Cobb is not. And if Jeff Cobb wins, he advances, period. So that's a big one to look out for. In the 8th match of the night, Cobb and Zack Sabre Jr. are both alive. Sabre has to, on the evening, either outscore Naito or Cobb to go through. If he doesn't outscore one of those two guys, he's done. Win, loss, or draw, doesn't matter. Goto will advance if he wins and Tanahashi and Jeff Cobb lose. So in order for Goto to advance, he has to win and both Tanahashi and Cobb have to lose on the evening. Otherwise, he's out. And then in the main event with Tanahashi and Naito, if Naito wins, he advances, full stop, period. If Tanahashi wins, he has to win, and a win for himself, Goto and Cobb advances Tanahashi. So the only way for Tanahashi to get through is if both Goto and Cobb win and he wins. And if that happens, then he goes through.
Yeah, I think pretty kind of clear scenarios here. Obviously, the first tournament match, Yano and Coughlin, no, big stakes there. I think Coughlin will get a win there to get to 6 points. For Haste and Cobb, just the way these cards are built, I feel they try to make the semi-mains and mains, the real kind of matches that mean something for the night. So I feel like Haste is going to pull an upset on Cobb here, which then opens the door up for a potential Hiroki Goto getting through. And then I think that Sabre will beat Goto, and then Naito will beat Tanahashi, and Sabre and Naito will get through.
I don't agree. And here's why. Everything in the undercard, like in the semi-main event and the main event, kind of is all contingent on Cobb winning. Because if Cobb doesn't win, let me see.
So if Cobb wins, you think Goto's beating Sabre? I think one foreigner and one domestic's gonna get through.
I'm having trouble. Okay, so for instance, in the main event, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only way Tanahashi goes through is if he wins, Goto wins, and Cobb wins.
Mm-hmm.
So if Cobb doesn't win or Goto doesn't win and the match is taking place, then Tanahashi has no chance of going through at all. Only Naito is playing to get through. And basically Tanahashi would be playing spoiler if Goto and Cobb didn't both win their matches.
Yeah.
That is possible. Like, you could just have him playing spoiler, and at that point, basically, that would, I'm guessing here, but I'm just kind of doing some quick math. It sounds like we would have a situation where Zack Sabre Jr. and Goto both stand a chance to go through based on that outcome. And in the semi-main event, Sabre's whole thing is he just has to outscore Naito or Cobb. He's tied with both of them, but they're the two guys that beat him. So he doesn't win a tiebreaker there, so he has to outscore them. I'm wondering if Jeff Cobb doesn't potentially get into a
Three-way tie.
no. Well, at first I was thinking maybe like a draw.
Oh, okay. So him and Hayes draw, and then he would go to 9 points.
But then at that point, Tanahashi is out because Tanahashi, it's Goto and Cobb have to win.
Right.
So if your whole thinking here is that the drama of the main event needs to be high for both combatants, then you would be predicting that Goto and Cobb win. But for Goto to advance, he needs to win, and Tanahashi and Cobb need to lose. So the only way that he can go through is if Cobb loses. So do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Goto needs Cobb to lose, but Tanahashi needs Cobb to win. And both matches are entirely contingent on that outcome from Cobb. And a draw doesn't help either case.
Yeah.
So I'm a little torn here, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Hats off to Gato. Did a good job kind of booking this one to leading a lot of possibilities here. I don't know. I just feel like Sabre and Naito should be the guys that go through, but
I do too.
But then again, you could do Cobb and Naito.
Putting it all into back into, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but perspective. The D1 winner is going to go on and face Hikuleo, and the D2 winner is going to go on and face Okada. And essentially, you've got 5 guys alive. You got Tanahashi, Goto, Zack Sabre, Naito, and Jeff Cobb. And it's a really tough. There's a lot of variability here. I think ultimately, no matter what Naito's going through, that's the one thing I'm pretty sure of. But I'm not, and I don't think Cobb's going through. No matter what happens, I think that he's fighting from beneath.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's a possibility that either Goto or Zack Sabre goes through.
Yeah, I guess with Goto's ribs, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to make it through the quarterfinals unless he's just doing a really great job selling and working us.
Okay, so we both think that it should be Sabre and Naito. So how do we get there?
Let's see. Well,
because here's the thing: if Cobb wins and Naito and Zack Sabre wins, then Sabre's out.
Yeah. So if Cobb loses, he would be at 8, still at 8, and then if Sabre wins, that puts Sabre 10, and then Tanahashi Naito. If Tanahashi would win, that would put him to 8. But he lost to Cobb right early in the tournament, so
I'm wondering if like Goto and Zack Sabre go to like a draw. I don't know. This is all I'm very, because of the way it's laid out. I can't predict this one.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, if they went to a draw, that would put Goto to 7 and Sabre to 9.
But then he would just go through.
Right, yeah. Because then, well, if Naito won, then Naito would get to 10. And then
if Naito lost, right? And because Naito's at what, 8?
Yeah, Naito's at 8.
Goto can't go through without a win and a loss for Tanahashi and Cobb. So that wouldn't help him in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So a draw doesn't do anything. I'm stuck here. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they might just have Tanahashi in that spoiler role at the end.
Here's the thing: either Cobb's gonna win and heighten the meaningfulness of Tanahashi's match, or he's gonna lose and he's gonna heighten the importance of Goto's match.
Yeah,
one or the other, because everything about him is important to Goto and Tanahashi one way or the other. As far as Zach goes, Zach has to outpoint him and he's tied with him. So if he wins, Zach's out.
Yeah.
So and there's no way for Zach to get around that. So yeah, I think it makes the most sense for Cobb to lose. He's going to you're right. He'll probably get upset by Shane Haste. And then at that point, it's basically Goto needs to win and have Tanahashi and Cobb lose to go through.
Yeah.
Sabre just has to outpoint Cobb.
Yeah. And I think giving Haste that win over Naito kind of gives him the strength to get an upset over Cobb also.
Mm-hmm. But essentially, if Zach just beats Goto, then he's in.
Yeah.
And then in the main event, what would happen if Naito lost? That's what I'm wondering. If Naito loses, because Tanahashi's out at that point.
So you're saying if Cobb loses also?
If Zach wins and then Naito loses, who goes through?
Then
we know Zach goes through, but who else goes through?
It would be Cobb, because Cobb has the tiebreaker over Naito, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, they'd be tied at 8, and then Cobb would have the tiebreaker over Naito. So Cobb and Sabre would go through.
Okay. So then okay, perfect. So then that's your situation. Cobb loses. He's not eliminated. He's still alive. He needs Naito to lose and Goto to lose. Goto loses to Zach. Zach goes through as like your C2. And then ultimately Naito wins. He goes through. He's your D. He's your D1. And he goes through and he fights Hikuleo, of course. And then you have Zack Sabre Jr. fighting off against Okada.
Yeah, which they love doing, Okada versus Sabre in tournaments. So
also, I just have to say, like, the D finals aren't looking so hot to me. I mean, like, I don't know. Neither C or D's finals are like, C's much more appealing to me just for storyline purposes, but the D finals, I'm like, Tanahashi and Naito in the main event. I don't know, man.
And 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we are getting Zach and Naito to go through.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that makes the most sense. And as far as star power and match quality, I think those are the two guys you want to get into the quarterfinals.
Well, Cobb made me a believer this year in the tournament again, but the way it's structured doesn't seem to work. You know what I mean? Unless Naito's just not going through, unless we're getting a Zach and a Cobb.
Yeah.
Which is possible, I guess.
Yeah, they could do that, which, I don't know, it just would seem weird. But, yeah, that takes us to night 17, which will be this Thursday, August 10th. That'll be the quarterfinals, like we mentioned. It'll be Sonata in the A1 spot. He'll take on the C2. And then we'll have Kazuchika Okada as the B1. He'll take on the D2. And then the C1 will take on Will Ospreay, who's B2. And then the D1 will take on Hikuleo, who's the A2. And then we'll have the semifinals on Saturday, August 12th from Ryogoku. And then ultimately the finals of the tournament Sunday, August 13th from Ryogoku.
All right, Jeremy. The rubber's met the road. I think we know where we're at. So who did we say was coming in the C2 position?
Shingo.
Okay. So you've got basically the way we're laying it out. Sonata versus Shingo. Okada versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yep.
David Finlay versus Will Ospreay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Naito versus Hikuleo.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go through that because first off, so who did we say Sonata's got? Shingo?
Shingo, yeah. I say Shingo beats him because that way you can set up a fall defense against Shingo.
Well, you know, who is Okada fighting again?
Sabre.
Okay. I think any three of those guys could hypothetically work. So if you wanted to have some, there is a part of me that sort of feels like if I'm still booking and believing that Naito is going to be the guy to take the title off Sonata and he's going to win this whole thing, which is possible. Maybe the story should be that Sonata just beats Shingo as opposed to Shingo beating him in the tournament and then getting the title shot. I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't know. The way I'm thinking, I'm booking it out to where the finals ends up being Shingo and Naito. And Shingo loses, but he's still going to get a title shot because he beats Sonata in the fall. And then your Tokyo Dome main event is Sonata and Naito. And by that point, Sonata would have beaten all the LIJ heavyweights. And Sonata would be the last one that he would have, or Naito would be the last one he would have to topple.
So I'm guessing that you're supposing that Zack Sabre Jr. is going to lose to Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah, and so I would put, Shingo versus Okada, which they had a match earlier this year, which Okada won. So you could have Shingo get the win back here and beat Okada.
Is there any argument for Okada beating Sonata in this point of the tournament and then being the guy that gets the title shot?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if they don't want Sonata going to the Dome, you have Sonata beat Shingo, and then you have Okada beat Sabre, do Okada Sonata. Okada beats Sonata, and if he doesn't win a G1, then you do a fall defense and you flip the belt.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially if you want to flip the belt, that might be the way you go. You have Okada beat him now and then beat him again in October. And then Okada walks into the Dome with the strap. I think I like your booking, though. I think we're going to see Okada versus Shingo. Shingo beats Okada to go to the finals, especially since Shingo has beaten Okada in the past, especially in the G1.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's look at the other side and just kind of see. So we've got Will Ospreay versus David Finlay, and then Naito against Hikuleo. I think Naito's a shoo-in to go through against Hikuleo no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's really a situation of who are we going to see go through between David Finlay and Ospreay, and they've got history. We've seen them last year in this tournament. They had that great match following the tournament for the U.S. title. And right now, I am wondering if David Finlay is not going to beat Ospreay.
I've thought about that, but I feel like with the history of Ospreay and Naito from last year's G1, and Ospreay was it Ospreay that beat Naito to get through last year?
He did, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what's next for the U.S. title after this?
True, yeah.
I know there's the rumors about, Will potentially working the Wembley show against Chris Jericho and everything like that. But realistically, right now, he doesn't have a challenger lined up. There hasn't been a credible person to beat him in the tournament other than, say, Taichi.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't really alluded to anything concerning that.
But Finlay's still the never champion.
Oh, that's right.
You can do a double gold dash.
I didn't think of that. I forgot about the never title. The U.S. champ and the never champ. So we're thinking Ospreay goes through. Him and Naito have the great match, and then you have Okada and Shingo, and then you wind up with Shingo
and Naito finals.
And
remember how great that match was a few years ago in the G1.
It's true. I'm also like, what if we get Shingo and Ospreay wins?
Dude, I did think about that. I'm like, what, but also, would they do Ospreay Shingo when they're about to do it at Rev Pro?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a great point.
Which, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, it's two different audiences, but
no, they would not do that. They would never let Rev Pro have, a rematch from the G1 finals.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if that wasn't happening, maybe Ospreay Shingo could be the finals to the next step in their rivalry. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be Shingo Naito. Because then obviously both guys want to face Sonata for leaving LIJ.
What about this? Shingo might lose to Okada. Shingo beats Sonata. I think that's what's happening. I'm flipping the script on you right now.
Okada Naito final?
I think Shingo is going to beat Sonata and have the claimant from winning that match that I can get a title shot, but then he loses to Okada in the semifinals because there's the whole story there. Okada 3 times in a row, blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Okada Naito, which is a huge money match that they've done to death before. So much so that I thought it could even be the main event of Tokyo Dome this year, again, for a 4th time. And yeah, I think we're going to get Okada Naito in the finals.
I mean,
I don't think Shingo's going to beat Okada and then turn around and lose to Sonata.
I mean, I don't know.
I feel confident about this, Jeremy. Trust me. I think this is what's happening. I know that we want to see Shingo and Naito again, but this just makes the most sense to me. I think a G1 final, and it's Okada Naito, and there's the story Okada going for his 3rd ever, and Naito chasing that one last chance at redemption.
Yeah,
and, that's the story. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, either way, you're going to get a great match regardless of who makes it to the finals there, whether it's Okada Naito or Shingo Naito. But we're both in agreement that Naito's probably winning, right?
I think Naito's winning.
Unless Gato wants to do his 3-peat booking and Okada wins.
The least likely scenario is Hikuleo winning.
Oh, my gosh, dude. If this man advances in the semifinals.
This is so crazy. And bro,
oh man. Well,
they really don't want to give us Kiyomiya and Okada. They really don't want to do it.
Dude, I'm still puzzled by that. Like you know it's a big match that people want to see, but clearly New Japan, it's not a big match for them. So
next week Jeremy will be gallivanting all over Europe, eating baguettes and doing whatever it is that they do in Europe. And I will be on the show reviewing the final block matches, the final 8 and the finals and all that with Chris Samsa. So that is going to do it for our preview. And let's jump into the news here. So the new what is it? AJS? All-Star Junior Festival participants and matches have been announced. Added participants: Francesco Akira, Fugaz, the DKC, Rizuki Taguchi, Chris Bay, Kevin Knight, Soberano Jr., and there will be a one-night tournament. 4 men singles matches: Francesco Akira versus Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight versus Clark Connor was announced. In addition to that, the Multiverse United 2 show has also, they've had an added match where it's Zack Sabre Jr. and Shane Hayes taking on Moose and Eddie Edwards. For the Rev Pro show coming up, which Rev Pro show is this? The anniversary show?
The 10th anniversary.
There was an announcement that it was going to be ELP taking on Gabe Kidd and David Finlay with a special mystery partner, and they have now announced that Katsura Shibata will be his mystery partner. So it'll be ELP and Shibata versus Gabe Kidd and David Finlay. In other news, Fujita and Eagles will be teaming up on a World Series of Wrestling tour October 6th through 13th. Fantastica Mania UK was announced for September 23rd as the best wrestlers of Red Pro will be matching up against the best wrestlers from CMLL. On August 13th, Stardom X Stardom. What? Oh. Why is it called Stardom X Stardom?
I don't know. That's what it's called.
Julia will be defending the NJPW Strong Women's title against you. And Maya Iwatani will be defending the IWGP Women's Heavyweight World Championship against Utami Hayashishita.
Nice. And then we have a few questions here, and then we'll get to a recommended match of the week. So first here from Les Commission 7252, he says, who have had the best excursion returns and who has the best impact coming out of that return? I'm excluding Hiromu's return because he was the second best behind Okada's return in 2012. Who's third in y'all's opinion?
I mean, there have been other people that have had very strong returns from excursion in the past, not just counting the Bushi Road era. I don't know. I'd probably go with like Kiji Muto / the Great Muda. That'd probably be my pick.
Yeah. Also, I didn't watch any of that stuff, but that would make sense. I mean, I guess just from like the
Liger's another strong candidate as well.
Yeah. I guess from the Bushi Road area, who would you say would be after Okada and Hiromu? Maybe Jay White? Yeah.
Maybe Jay.
Yeah. It says, who has the best G1 upset win over Tanahashi from 2016 to 2023? I would have to go with Zack Sabre Jr. since it elevated him from mid-card to challenging for the IC Championship, winning the New Japan Cup, and then becoming a main eventer challenging the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Guys that are including this list by year are Sonata, Sabre, Jay White, Will Ospreay, Aaron Henare, and now Alex Coughlin.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zack Sabre's probably one of those strong names. Sonata, I love that Sonata match. Like where Sonata just comes in and beats Tanahashi. It was highly unexpected. I mean, it didn't necessarily elevate him the way you think it would, but it's still, I love that match. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a really fun match.
Will definitely got a elevation off of that match is that when he beat him at the end of what was the 2019 tournament.
Yeah, and he was still a junior in that 2019 tournament. That elevated Will to go open weight, challenge Ibushi for the Never title.
You know, he said 2016 to 2023, but I think just prior to that, there was that famous Tomohiro Ishii win in what was it, 2015. I think that's got to be. I know it's not the parameters he wants, but yeah, he hits. I forget the name of the move, but the sitting pile driver thing that his special super finisher that he does, like that match is fucking incredible. And I'd probably put that over all of these.
Well, of course, it's Ishii.
Yeah.
His last question says, what's a better surprise? Shibata random appearances or Kojima X returns?
I don't care.
Hawaiian Punch BV, thoughts on the Paul Diaz fight? Do you think Nate would have won if he was in his prime and motivated?
No, but you know what? I'm not going to sit here and say like I knew this was going to happen necessarily, but I can't say I sat here and I predicted what was going to take place. But it did kind of play out in hindsight exactly the way that I knew it could play out, because it's like, okay, Nate Diaz, sure, has he quote unquote sparred with boxers in the past and in the gym? Sure. Like you hear those stories, and like, does he have good boxing for MMA? Sure. But he doesn't have boxing fundamentals. So yeah, he lost the match on the scorecards to Jake Paul. But Jake Paul, it proved a lot of different things. Number one, it proved to me that Jake Paul has good boxing fundamentals on a very rudimentary level, and he was able to hurt Nate very, very badly in the early goings of the match. But as time went on, it showed me that like he doesn't have that dog in him to fight a real fight. Like when it gets scrappy and someone starts giving you some actual shit and some real fire, he don't got that chin. He doesn't have that heart. He's not a fighter. He's not someone that can grit down and sit in the pocket and go to war. He doesn't have that kind of skill set. On the flip side of things, Diaz, he wasn't, the few times he popped out his jab, he had great success with it. But for the most part, he just literally walked through a hellstorm and didn't have any real rudimentary boxing, but he just started like slap boxing this man and just started fucking him up. It was hilarious. The fact that I guarantee you that any competent boxer worth their salt fighting Nate Diaz in a boxing match would have stopped him in the first 45 seconds to minute of that fight. Not because Nate Diaz isn't, a tough guy, but because like they would have been able to string stuff together and just get him the fuck out of there. Mm-hmm. That's how incompetent Nate was when it comes to the boxing game. but Jake doesn't have the know-how to string together that sort of stuff to actually do it. And he didn't have that dog in him. And Nate was able to walk through everything he gave him. Yeah, he got dropped once in the fight, but for the most part, he was able to weather the storm. And he came on strong in the second half of the fight. He started fucking up Jake Paul. It was embarrassing, bro. If you're a boxer and you let this non-boxing motherfucker come into your world and just start piecing you up down the stretch, like, it was so bad. Like, and it showed me, like, Nate Diaz got a heart of a lion. A monster chin. He ate some monstrous shots and he just gobbled them up and walked through them. And he kind of was beating the fuck out of Jake Paul down the stretch. He probably won 2 or 3 of the rounds out of 10, but still, regardless, he was like the guy that the crowd was completely behind. Like, in his prime, and if he's motivated, he would not have won that fight. But if what would have changed it is if he trained in boxing. If he actually knew how to throw a jab, and if he knew how to give some head movement, give him some different looks and work and pop and work from the outside and everything like that, yeah, he could have won that fight.
Also asked, are you excited for the teased title matches from the recent Glate show? Hiromu versus Minoru Tanaka for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, and Vegeta Jr. Hayato versus Minoru Suzuki for the Ledette UWF title. Are you also excited for Hiromu versus Rising Hayato on an upcoming AJPW show? Should we expect more sexual tension?
I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to the sexual tension, but because I don't watch other Japanese professional wrestling. I tried to, but I just, we don't have the time. But yeah, all those sound great, especially Junior Hayato versus Suzuki. That sounds awesome. And then Hiromu versus Minoru Tanaka. That would probably rock.
Yeah, that'd be great. Adam Sensei 82 says, if you could have dinner with any NJPW wrestler, living or dead, from any time period, which restaurant would you take Yota Tsuji to and why?
I would take him to Whataburger.
I don't know where I'd take the Gene Blast. I feel like he needs to go to like a one of those one of the meat places where they just keep bringing you meat.
You mean Brazilian Steakhouse?
Yeah, Brazilian Steakhouse. Yeah.
Take him to Red Lobster, dog.
Get him some Cheddar Bay biscuits. Then 3 questions here from the Dark Soldier. First says, who do you feel was wasted in a past G1? Someone you felt lost way too much or generally was put in a position to look bad? I think of Juice in 2018, mostly because there was no aftermath and even Goto the same year, given he was never champion and had 6 points. Give me your thoughts.
My first thought that always comes to mind when someone gives me a question like this is Juice from that specific year.
Yeah, I mean,
I know I'm copying your answer, but like it was egregiously bad.
Right. I mean, that is the answer.
Yeah.
Coming off that big win from San Francisco, from beating Jay White and then going into that G1 and just...
He was so hot and they fucked him over so bad. And then he just lost the title to Cody.
Yeah. Sad. He says, young boy, is the KOPW title still the second top title in NJPW? I know Taichi beat Ospreay, the US champ, but Taichi ended with 6 points and lost to Divide champion Kenta. What's going on?
Yeah. The Southwest, the Pacific Southwest coming up. You know what I'm saying? Defy, B.
His last question, are Shibata and Kushida even New Japan guys anymore? Shibata at this point is an ROH guy and Kushida an Impact guy. Hell, someone like Minoru Suzuki is an America Indie Star. What is going on?
He's not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't know what's going on with Shibata. Kushida, I guess, wants to wrestle in America more, and so does Suzuki. So I don't know what's going on with those guys. Well, that's going to take us to recommended match of the week. So last week for the excursion, I picked the Slammiversary match from this year, the Ultimate X match that featured Gresham versus Kushida versus Bailey versus Jake Something versus Alan Angels versus Kevin Knight.
Yep, this is available on New Japan World, so if you want to check it out, it is there. Very good match. I wouldn't call it a great match, although it could have been a great match. A lot of great talent involved, and it was well on its way to being something that was truly excellent. But they had about, I think, just under 12 minutes. The match only goes like 11 minutes. And in the early goings, like you see some crazy stuff here, especially from Mike Bailey, and Alan Angels too, flying all over the place. Kevin Knight, really great laid out stuff. But out of nowhere, like the match is going, and then there's some downtime, and then suddenly everyone starts going for the X, and the story just becomes Alan Angels hitting low blows on. He's a heel, so Alan Angels starts low blowing everybody and getting them out of there, and they're kind of just eliminated. And it's like, all right, then it's just Alan Angels and Kushida dispenses of him, and then he just grabs the X, and it's just over. And it's like, oh, I thought that didn't feel like that should have been the crescendo. Like it seemed like they kind of got the order to go home out of nowhere. And they were cooking before that. Like they were doing some really, I mean, there was one point where Mike Bailey went all the way to the tip top of the whatever you want to call it. Like I don't know what the word
the
is.
structure, X structure, the poles
Yeah,
that
the
hold
X
it up.
structure. He went all the way to the top of the X structure and moonsaulted off of it, and it was really awesome. And some great stuff there. Even Jonathan Gresham was getting with the flips and everything, but it just ended abruptly. I'd probably go like 3.5. It could have been better. It just ended so out of nowhere.
Gotcha. Then for the recommended match, you chose.
I botched. I fucked up here.
Chono versus Hase from the 93 G1.
Yeah, I thought that I sent you the full match, and then I realized I didn't send you the full match.
Yeah, it's all good. I was watching it today. I was like, 5 minutes, like a 4.5 match is 5 minutes. This is going to be incredible.
I thought I sent you the full match, bro, and I didn't.
And I tried looking for it. It's hard to find.
It's hard to find. It's really hard to find now.
But I did watch the 5-minute clips that they had there. And from what I saw, it was great.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude. It starts off where Chono hits this big lariat and a power bomb for a near fall, and then he does the figure four, and they roll out to the ring, and he refuses to let go of the hole, and they start the count there. We got a near count out. Then Hase comes back. He hits these beautiful Uranagis, and then he hits a Northern Lights, but he couldn't hold the bridge because of the figure four messing up his legs. He dropped.
He had tape all over the knee too, and it was very clear he was dealing with some sort of leg injury, which was why Chono was focusing on it.
Yeah. So eventually he was able to hit a Northern Lights. Again, got a near fall. Chono's hitting these big hits to the head. Fights off the Uranagi, hits the DDT there, and I didn't write down the finish. I think Hase won that, right?
Yeah, he hits him. Hase puts him into like
that's what the STF choke thing.
It's like a STF leg slicer. Like I don't even know. It's basically like it's a slicer. He puts him in a slicer hold where he also chokes him out, and he gets the 1, 2, 3, and it just kind of comes down after he hits him with a giant crazy lariat where they both fall down. Like they're selling the exhaustion. And the crowd is ravenous during this entire thing.
Dude, from the powerbomb near fall, they were losing their minds.
Well, if you recall, that's the move that Chono beat Muto with in the 1991 final.
Mm-hmm.
2 years prior to this. So we got to find that full match because it's one of the best New Japan 90s matches. It's not available on World. I thought I found a link to it, but I did not.
All right.
And so maybe one day when we find that, we could actually watch the full thing. Jeremy, I know you were going to give me a recommended match of the week, but I think that you're leaving town, so I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do. So for the next few weeks, I'm just going to focus on excursion match of the week. I'm just going to recommend myself a match every week and review that and just kind of help us with award season.
Yeah, that's coming up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there's so many excursion matches going on all the time. So I'm just going to try and focus on that. I think maybe this week I'll watch that Rocky Romero Mascara Dorada match that's on CMLL on YouTube. So maybe I'll do that or something. But by the way, congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you, sir.
So, Jeremy, where are you going? What are you doing?
Yeah, so Thursday we'll be flying out to London, direct flight from Tampa to London, and then from there we'll be getting on a cruise that leaves from Southampton, England, doing the British Isles. So we'll be hitting up England, Scotland, Ireland, and France. When in Scotland, we'll be going to Glasgow. I will be meeting up first time in person with Ricky, Clive, and Murray Bone, Muzza. So that's going to be pretty cool meeting up with those guys for the first time. And yeah, dude.
Maybe you can get them to record podcasts again.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I need to, fly over there, sweeten the deal for them. Get a new contract for them. And then after we get off the cruise, it's a 12-day cruise. We'll get off of that. Then we'll head over to Paris, stay there for a couple days, and then head back.
Bro, be careful in Paris. It's ghetto over there.
I've been seeing some gang warfare going on over there. And then, we'll head back to London, which will conclude the trip with Wembley Stadium all in. And then I'll fly back the day after Wembley.
And the copper box.
Maybe. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I'll be flying out Thursday and I'll be back on the 28th, just in time for us to record episode 300. Which we already have a big interview in the can. I guess we can just announce it now since it's already locked and loaded. Our good friend Rocky Romero did an interview with us for episode 300. And I got to say, it's probably the best Rocky interview that we've done.
It's the best one we've done with him by far. I was kind of shocked at some of the... You guys will hear, but it's a great interview. But there's a few things like... let me just talk about it a little bit. So like in the past, right, Rocky's always been cool with us. Rocky's, a great friend of the show. And it's always been very awesome that he's been willing to come on and do interviews with us. But one thing that has always kind of existed, and this is sort of known by us, is that New Japan sort of exists in this quasi kayfabe sort of, nebulous sort of space. So when we do interviews with guys, we don't always expect 100% that everything is on the level. You know what I mean? We think we always know we're going to have a little bit of working going on. It's a little bit of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, hint, hint going on. You know what I mean? And with Rocky, it's kind of always been that way. And he's always been very gracious with his time and his answers and everything like that. But there's always been a little bit of we're working a little bit, but we're also shooting. And, that's just what it is. But this time, bro, we tried to give him a couple of those and he just was completely 100% transparent and open with everything. And I, in ways that I was not exactly expecting. I was oh, damn, this man's going in. Do you know that people are going to listen to this and aggregate it? Do you know what aggregation is? It's not AI. But there's some really good it is a little bit dated because we recorded before the G1, so not everything that is discussed in the episode is going to be 100% up to date, but it's a great interview, probably the best one we've ever done with him, and he is extreme. This is the most candid he's ever been with us, and I feel I've listened to his interviews a lot. I feel like this is the best one I've ever heard.
Yeah,
personally.
Really good stuff. I think that we got a lot of the answers to questions that a lot of people have had, especially this year. So yeah, it's definitely be good stuff to look out for that coming up.
And there's some stuff in there that we're not going to give it away just yet, but there's stuff in there that I did not expect to get information about, where I'm oh shit, that's blowing my mind right now. So trust me, if you're a New Japan fan, you want to hear that episode.
Yeah, so make sure you're locked in. Hit that subscribe button. That'll be coming up in 3 weeks, episode 300.
Next week, I'll be back here on the show with a friend of the show, Chris Samso. We'll be reviewing the G1 Climax. Jeremy, I promise you I'll do you proud. I'll do the recap, and I'll do all the shit, all of it. It's going to get done. And then the week following that, We have not locked everything down just yet, but I will be reviewing the All-Star Junior Festival as well as the Impact / New Japan Multiverse United We Stand, Divided We Fall, whatever, blah, blah, blah show. That as it stands right now, that show is going to be a solo show. I did reach out to one individual that I wanted to record the show with, and I was like, brother, can you come on? And they're like, yeah, but I don't have the – here's what I'll say. If you're out there and you're a content creator and you want to be on this show, the invitation is open. If you want to watch those shows and you want to come on and you want to record the review with me, we can do it. Here's the one catch. I do not have the ability to record the show and to do all that. So you have to be adept at recording and uploading the content. And if you are listening and you are a content creator, hit me up. Let me know if that's what you'd like to do, and I'll consider it. It's not 100% guaranteed that I'll do it because ultimately it still might be easier for me to do the solo show. But if I'm interested, we can definitely link up and potentially get that going. Otherwise, that will be a solo show.
Nice. So, yeah, you got the keys to the castle for the next 2 weeks. So, should be, fun stuff.
I won't burn the house down, hopefully. You come back and we're no longer on X.
The network's over. Keepin' It Strong Style's over. Oh, man. But that's going to wrap things up for us here this week. Like Josh said, next week will be with Chris Samsa to review the conclusion of G1 Climax 33. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation and visit socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keepin' It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media, on Twitter or X, whatever it's called nowadays, at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, on Facebook, facebook.com/Social Suplex, on Instagram and Threads, at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, on Reddit. I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out our YouTube channel, Social Suplex Podcast Network, and check out all the other shows that we have here on the network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Jonathan Jr. and Austin Summerwitz. And the Wrestling Disaster, hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Hit your bum.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.